Humanity leans in the direction of calling evil good and good evil, substituting darkness for light, light for darkness, substituting bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. This is the nature of all of us. To believe lies, to follow the father of lies, to overturn right and wrong. And the current situation in which we live is just another historic manifestation and picture of the perversion of humanity.
As Christians, followers of Christ, we look at society through the lens of the Bible, and we look around today and we see our society just collapsing all around us. We see immorality, we see theft, we see lies being traded for truth, and people just believing all the lies that are all around us. And we have to ask ourselves, what is going on? Where are we going? And what is God going to do? The truth is a very hard thing to find these days, with the acceptance of lies and new narratives being thrusted upon society. We must continue to seek truth in our only source, which is God's Word, the Holy Scriptures. As you examine God's Word for yourself, you will find many truths that are uneasy and even having horrible endings to those who followed crooked leaders and their lies. Just as Israel had done so for thousands of years, they followed their own way and the evil leaders. Living for their own desires, which is idolatry, resulted in one thing: God's judgment. And it is certain that any nation turning their backs on God and going about their own way and their own path, they will experience the same devastation as we can see in the Old Testament. The prophet Jeremiah in chapter 9 writes of the painful sight that he saw as he sat lamenting over the destruction of Judah due to their idolatry and turning away from God. In the third verse in chapter 9, Jeremiah wrote, "They bend their tongues like their bow. Lies and not truth prevail in the land, for they proceed from evil to evil, and they do not know me, declares the Lord." Going down to verse 11, this is God acting out his wrath. It says, "I will make Jerusalem a heap of ruins, a haunt of jackals, and I will make the cities of Judah a desolation without inhabitant." So basically, God is saying he will wipe out any nation, just like he did Judah and Jerusalem, all for one little thing of not following him. Turning their back on God caused his patience to run out, and his justice has to be delivered. John MacArthur uses verses from the book of Isaiah to show how God dealt with the Israelites in his account in their disobedience to God.
Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who substitute darkness for light and light for darkness, who substitute bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Essentially, that's the sin that signals the coming of judgment. Turning truth and righteousness and virtue upside down.
As the Bible states, God is a jealous God and only wants himself to be worshipped by man. If a nation denies God, and if its leaders turn away from God, then there is not much left to do but expect the judgment from a just and righteous God. So what does judgment look like? Let's listen to John MacArthur describe what it looks like and exactly what we're going through today in Romans 1.
This is characteristic of humanity. They knew God, that is, they knew God existed, that's reason. They didn't honor him as God or give thanks. They became empty in their speculations. Their foolish heart was darkened. Professing to be wise, they became fools. They exchanged the glory of the incorruptible God for an image in the form of corruptible man, birds, four-footed animals, crawling creatures. That's what I was saying earlier. They rejected true God, Reason would lead them to the true God. Reason would define the true God in terms of his creation, what they know about his creation, and what they know about his law written in their hearts. They reject all of that. They run from the true God, and they run to false gods as a way to escape the true God. So what does God do in response? This is one of the most profound passages in the Bible. God gave them over, verse 24. That is a legal term, handed them over to punishment, handed them over to execution, handed them over to sentence. God gave them over. Verse 26, God gave them over. Verse 28, God gave them over. 3 times, God says, you're guilty of rejecting me, rebelling against me. I turn you over. To what? God gave them over, verse 28, to a depraved mind. A mind that doesn't function, they can't think straight. That's when you have a political party that builds its party platform on killing infants in the womb, destroying the family, elevating homosexuality, transgender perversion, and they're proud about it.